welcome back to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. This is going to be such a fun episode. I have my friend Gwen joining us. Gwen, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Gwen, you soon will be. She is an influencer on Instagram. I know that if you've watched any of my webinars or heard me talking about micro influencers over and over again, she is the real expert and she is an influencer herself. So Gwen, you started, I'm going to just have you share your background more than me, but I know that you started the LA Girl for your own personal brand, and now you have a site where you're training other people how to monetize and become influencers themselves. So what's your story? How'd you get into this in the first place?
Sure. So I was looking to do something on my own aside from my corporate job in 2014. And that's when I started the LA Girl. So it's about almost 4 years now, just about 4 years actually, on September 4th. So that was just a few days ago. So I started as a side hustle. I didn't really know what I was doing. It was just a blog that I wanted to write about LA, my hometown, and things to do in LA. And then I started kind of growing my audience on the blog and on Twitter, which was where I first started. And then Instagram kind of was like on the rise. And then I started sharing my hiking adventures and places I would eat. And so it was really about growing an audience and having an audience that wants to know, where are the places you recommend? What are the things that you would recommend to them as far as products and as far as LA, like where to go and what to do. And so I grew that about 2.5 years until I was able to quit my corporate job in digital marketing and entertainment. And I was able to be an influencer full time. And so what that meant was brands would pay me to advertise their products and services to my audience of millennial women in LA. And since then, I've had tons of people asking me how I do that. And so I started my other company called Spark Society, where I teach influencers how to get sponsored by brands, how to do this life, how to build your own personal brand, and how to grow your audience.
And I feel like that is, estheticians kind of have this special quality that this is a huge market that more and more estheticians could fit into really well. So whether it's, connecting with influencers, because we're seeing Sephora, we're seeing Ulta, we're even seeing some of the physician dispensed skincare brands reaching out to connect with influencers to market their product rather than the, like putting an ad in a magazine or something like that. Like you're seeing this grow. So I guess that like barrier to entry seems to be broken down, where estheticians could connect with influencers, but they could also become influencers themselves and have this whole other stream of income.
Definitely. So I love what you were saying about, big brands, instead of just doing traditional advertising, they understand that influencers have built their own audience. So the people who have been following me since 4 years ago, they know me, they like me, they trust me. And so they would rather have me recommend a brand or an esthetician to go to or a facialist than hearing a facialist say, come to me. It's a different type of what I call word of mouth marketing right now, because they would trust me rather than just a brand marketing themselves. So I definitely, for your estheticians, I think that influencer marketing could be a powerful way to get their business out there, especially if their audience already knows and trusts them. And then for them being influencers themselves, I definitely see that as an opportunity, because you want to, tell your followers about what products you use and where you go. And, you wouldn't recommend something that you don't like because, you actually love your followers, I hope. And yeah, it could be a way for you to work with other brands and for you to promote brands and get paid to do it as well.
So I hear a lot about influencers specifically with Instagram, but you said you started with Twitter. So
yes.
Do you feel like the trend is now everyone's on Instagram, or do you feel like Twitter is still a place that people go?
Well, I am not on Twitter as much just because Instagram is kind of like the best place that influencers and brands are seeing, you know, the market going. And that's kind of where a lot of people shop for ideas. I think as an influencer, it's great if you have multi-platform. So I do Facebook and Instagram, and then I have my blog, but I know a lot of people who do YouTube if they do videos, and I know a lot of people who do really well on Pinterest. And as an influencer, I think it's more of like what your brand is as a whole rather than just what channel you're on.
So for estheticians who were like, hey, this idea of marketing, of connecting with influencers, how do they start out with that? How do they find influencers that they want to work with? And I know that there's kind of all different levels. So, you know, I think when people first start out, they're doing maybe some trades. And then as they grow their audience, they're getting paid for their post. How do you find those people?
Right. So we have what we're calling the rise of the micro influencers. And these are influencers probably under 50K followers and maybe even less than that. And what we're seeing is that a lot of micro influencers, the lower or the less following that you have, the more engagement you have. A lot of it has to do with the algorithm as well, because I think that the trend that we're seeing so far is that the higher you're following, the less your stuff gets shown. Because as we all know, Facebook and Instagram are advertising platforms. And so they do want us to, you know, put in advertising money to get shown to our followers. I think that's a constant and that's a given with all accounts. But for you guys, for estheticians who want to work with influencers, what I would look for is people who are interested in that niche, whether that's skincare or beauty. And what I would do is just look through hashtags. I actually tell brands when they ask me to find influencers to work with them is to do some what I call Insta stalking. And so that's going into Instagram and going through hashtags. You can see if people are tagging other med spas or beauty salons or other estheticians that you know in your area. And so you'll know if they're working with other estheticians. Hashtags do really well. And then if they're tagging brands, like for example, if you work with a specific skincare line or something like that, you could see who's tagged that brand. And so there's a lot of ways to find people on Instagram. And then from there, you can check out their profile, see if they're posting consistently, see how many followers they have, see if they're engaging with their followers. And from there, you can kind of choose who you want to work with and if both of your brands align.
Wow. That's it sounds like a whole nother job, but I guess
it is. That's why a lot of brands actually hire agencies to do it for them, or they bring it in-house.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know with estheticians a lot, and especially solo estheticians, they are like one-woman shows a lot of times. But it's amazing, I think, how much you can do. Even with Instagram, now correct me if I'm wrong, but can you search your specific area?
Yes.
Or do you just have to look at the hashtag with your area?
You can choose location.
Okay.
Yes.
So that could be an easy way too, because these estheticians that are solo practitioners, they are one-woman shows, and they a lot of times are doing their social media, they're doing all their marketing, and I love to help them find solutions that, you know, how can we automate this? How can we make this something that they can incorporate into their life so that they can really focus on the patient or the client that's in front of them? But when you have like a relationship, if you could find an influencer or 2 or 3 influencers in your area, it's almost like having a marketing team, you know, on the ground for you. So you really can spend that energy on your clients and patients.
Exactly. It's kind of like hiring a team that there might require some work beforehand for interviewing and vetting and things like that. But so a couple of things I would want to give them as tips as a one-woman show. One, I would kind of make this like a promotional calendar thing and kind of plan ahead on what you want to do. A lot of the brands that I know, they have campaigns planned out a year in advance. So they know that they're going to do a fall campaign, they're going to do a holiday campaign, a spring campaign, and a summer campaign. So in reality, you only have to look for new influencers if you want a new person once a quarter. So it'd be kind of like a job interview where I would spend maybe an hour looking for some influencers and then reaching out with an email and asking if they're interested in the brand or if this is something that they would like to partner on, and I would start from there. Another thing that you can do is you can use the same influencer throughout the year. And a lot of influencers actually love doing that with brands, is having a long-term, what they call ambassadorship. Because if you think about it, if I'm talking on my channel about the same brand over and over again, instead of just a one-time shout out, it's a much more authentic, organic experience. And it's actually true because one, they could see transformation, right? So like a before and after from 3 months to 6 months to a year. And then two, as you know, like with commercials and TV and everything, sometimes it takes people like 7 times to actually for something to click in their mind and be like, oh, maybe I should try that. And so it's more of like an ongoing promotion and collaboration rather than just a one-time thing.
Okay, so now let's shift the conversation to if these estheticians want to become influencers themselves, if they're really interested in creating, getting to this celebrity esthetician level, and growing their business in that way. You would suggest joining your program. Right?
Yes, definitely. So the academy that I run is a monthly membership for influencers. And basically I help them build their personal brand and think about who's your audience? Who do you want it to be? Really niching that down, because the more niche it is, as you know, the better, because brands can figure out if they want to work with you or not. Same thing with that esthetician to influencer relationship. You want to, it may not make sense if you were talking about all these other things. I mean, there's lifestyle influencers who talk about a lot of things, but maybe like a food influencer is not, or an adventure influencer is not the right fit for your brand. So you really have to look at that. And as an influencer, for me, I want to think about, okay, what brands do I want to work with? And what niches are they targeting? So for example, let's just say skincare. So let's say I want to work with a skincare brand, and I know they usually work with beauty, maybe someone who's like into fitness and health. So maybe those are my 2 touch points. And so what I would do as a esthetician starting to be an influencer, I would talk to my target audience who would be interested in those 2 topics, and basically providing them value every single day in my posts on, skincare, maybe like depending on the age, do they care about anti-aging? Do they care about budget versus lux? What are the questions that their followers want to know? And you should answer those questions, whether that's in your post or Instagram stories, and also like sharing tidbits of your life, because that story is where that connection happens between you and your audience.
Well, and I think that really shows the power of influencers. And like you said in the beginning, you're building that know, like, trust factor.
Yes.
Your followers know, like, and trust you. And so it makes the purchasing decision or the recommendation more authentic. And in order to do that, you do have to share about yourself. You do have to open up and show your life and all of that stuff. So if you want to be an influencer, you have to be ready, be prepared to open the curtains.
Definitely. And I think a lot of people are scared of that. A lot of the influencers that I work with in my program are very scared of that. And I always tell them, I go back to the thing that, it's not about us. Like at the end of the day, it's not about you, right? It's about the people that you're trying to help and the people that you can inspire. And when I'm sharing about me, it's not because I want to talk about myself. It's because maybe me saying something to you will incite something in you. Maybe it will inspire you to do something that you've always wanted to do. I talk a lot about, being a stepmom, and, when I share things like that, people are like, oh my God, that's so great. We didn't even know that about you. And then when I talk about, oh, hey, try this product, they'll be like, okay, because I feel like you're my friend and, you're my neighbor. And we talk about things like, kids and parenting, and then also skincare and beauty products.
Yeah, that actually, for me personally, has been a big struggle, is opening up and showing my personal life. I can talk about business and all of that until I'm blue in the face. And I talk about my daughter, but I don't my husband and I have chosen not to show her on social media as kind of a lesson in consent, because she's not old enough to consent if she
Right.
wants to be on there or not. So I feel like I spend so much time with her outside of work that anything that I'm showing, she's there. So that's been like such a big struggle, but that is a complete side note from what we're talking about here. So let me ask you this. I've noticed really that it's been just the past couple of years that there's been this influencer trend, and maybe it's longer, but for me, I really feel like I've seen a big uptick in it for the past maybe year and a half to 2 years. Where do you think this is going in the next 5 years? Do you think this is a bubble, or do you think it's just going to grow even more?
I definitely think it's just starting. Being on the influencer end, I still see a lot of brands who are still not understanding how influencer marketing works. A lot of them still think that it is a free advertising mechanism, which it can be in the beginning for micro influencers and people who are willing to accept trade. But for those of us who are doing this as a business, it's definitely, I compare it as like a channel or a billboard. So, you can advertise on Fox or ABC for, $1 million for a commercial, or you can advertise with a smaller channel, a small cable news channel in some small city in this state, and that's me. And then I have this engaged number of people. And the difference between going through like a radio, you can go do a radio giveaway or do a cable show or a billboard, is that there is that connection. It's a person to person. It's not a radio station and a person connecting, which there can be connection like with the hosts, but that's why they put that in there, for that personalized connection. And that's something that influencer marketing does. And that's why it's getting so big. And traditional advertising is not working the way as it used to, especially with people moving away from TV and film, and people going to Netflix and Hulu on demand and don't even see commercials anymore. So where's that TV money going? It's actually going to digital. It's going to ads online, as you could see, and then also ads online, you see them and you ignore them. But if you're watching your favorite influencer that you see every single day and they're telling you about something, there's more attention that's given to that recommendation. It's like a word of mouth recommendation from a friend.
That's awesome. Well, I think that it's been so fun watching and learning from you over the past almost year that we've known each other. And I'm definitely going to include all of your links so you guys can follow Gwen. Make sure that you're following her. We'll put her Influencer Academy links down there if you guys want to be the next celebrity esthetician, or if you just want to learn. She's got tons of free resources that you can learn how to use this method of marketing and advertising to get new clients in your business. So Gwen, is there anything else you wanted to add before we finish up this episode?
No, I think we've covered most of it. I like being a one-woman show for many, many years, and a lot of it has to do with what to prioritize in your business and what's going to work. And I feel like influencer marketing is something that you will see an ROI on. It may not be immediate, but again, it's kind of like just telling, 10,000 people, and then those 10,000 people will tell other people. And it's kind of like one of those wildfire things. And I don't know about you guys, but I would rather have people talking about my product rather than, Facebook talking about my product or an Instagram ad. It doesn't have that type of stickiness, and people trust people and they don't trust big companies. And that's why these huge companies are going in this direction. So I really hope you guys give it a try. And like Daniela said, we'll give you guys some links and some resources so that you guys can figure out if you want to work with influencers or even try and be an influencer yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gwen.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.